What's going on, Sky Squad? This is your boy DJ Richie Skye, and I'm here with kind of like a little bit of an impromptu video to review the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. We've been talking about this show, and I've gotten some requests from some of you guys to review it because I know some of you guys feel frustrated, as do I. So I figured we would talk about it today. So this is a little bonus video or whatever. And I'm just going to give you my sort of loose thoughts about the episode, but my overarching thought is really about Garcelle. And I'm going to start off by saying that I love Garcelle. I really, really do. I absolutely love her, but I'm going to need for Garcelle to step up to the plate. Okay. I'm going to need for her to be the bad bee that we all know that she can be. And I'm going to need for her to understand that nobody in this group is going to have your back. Okay. With the exception of maybe Sutton. But my sense is that if they continue to beat her down enough, that she will concede to the I don't want to call them the mean girls, but she will concede to the girls who have been on this show the longest and how they want to run and do things, right? And so what that means is that, you know, they will stop asking questions that people want to know the answers to. That means that they will just acquiesce to whatever gaslighting I feel like is happening on the show. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean by that in just 1 second. And they will just start to, you know, back each other up endlessly because they want to control the narrative. I don't want Sutton to become that person. And I definitely don't want Garcelle to become that person either. But I also don't want Garcelle to continue to look for, you know, confirmation or approval from these women in any way, shape, or form, because ultimately, Garcelle, you will never fit in with this group of women. And it's not just because you are a Black woman. It is not that at all. It is because you are naturally an inquisitive Black woman, okay, who is wanting to know the answers to the questions that the audience has. The same with Sutton. Sutton, if she continues down this path, which I want her to do, will never quite fit into this group because Sutton is also continuously asking the questions that the audience wants answers to, that the ladies will do their darndest to protect each other from and to shield each other from. And that has been the history of the show for the past several seasons, which is why it has typically gone down the tubes to a certain degree, because Beverly Hills will always really kind of be up there because they continuously focus on the extravaganza of the Beverly Hills lifestyle. So that's the first thing that I want to say. And it just pained me to watch, you know, Garcelle kind of flounder in the face of Dorit of all people. And I like Dorit. I do. I really do. But, you know, just to see her kind of flounder and to think that she needs Lisa Rinna of all people to back her up. It's like, girl, you should know. Lisa Rinna told you about 2 episodes ago. Lisa Rinna is loyal to the truth, which I think means her truth. Okay. And when it's convenient for her. But that's we'll get to that later. We start off this episode with Dorit. You know, she is getting ready to host an event for her Nectara times Dorit collection of wedding gowns, which I think is an interesting niche to kind of go into. Is Beverly Beach no more? What's going on with Beverly Beach? What's happened with that? Because I haven't heard about that. I mean, are we not doing swims? Are the girls not swimming no more? Anyway, she's stressing over the theme and whether or not it's going to rain or not. Let me tell you something. That's an interesting quagmire to have, because typically in California, like especially in Los Angeles, it don't rain that much. But when it does, it can last for like maybe 3 days at the most. And when it does too, you got to worry because the people cannot drive out there in the rain. They do not know. Oh my God. Anyway, she sends out some guy to deliver the invitations on some mirrors or whatever. And when the guy opened up the door at Garcelle's house, I was kind of looking like, Garcelle, are you looking at this guy like he here for you? Because, you know, Garcelle is trying to get the she's on the dating path. Okay. So we get to Kathy Hilton's house. Kathy is talking to her dog. I love Kathy's life because Kathy just seems to live the life of the rich and fabulous and just so unaware of what's actually going on in the world because she lives in her own little bubble. And I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all because quiet as it's kept, when I'm not on camera or when I'm not researching topics, I'm trying to live in my own little world too. Okay. I get it. I get it, Kathy. Anyway, she has invited some of the girls, namely her sister Kyle and Lisa Rinna and Erika Jane over for some facials or whatever. Now, I'm going to go back in my notes because they split off into two groups. And I want to read you verbatim the story that Erika Jane told Kyle. She says this, Tom's house was broken into and he confronted the burglar and then had to go have eye surgery. And then my son had to go over and help. And my son then rolled his car over 5 times on the way home. So Kyle, I always talk about not always, but I talk about sometimes having great reality TV face, right? And a great reality TV face or a good media personality face in general is someone who can appropriately convey what they're thinking with simply the emotions and the expressions on their face. And let me tell you something, Kyle does not disappoint because Kyle is looking at this girl like, what in the world? And Kyle is asking all the questions like the what, the who, the how is this? How did all this come to be? And to be honest with you, I'm not even going to dissect this story any further because to me, it makes about as much sense as most of the stories that Erika Jane has told on this show, in that they are so seemingly convoluted and filled with details that I feel like I really didn't need, or she didn't even really need to tell us about this alleged story. So it was just very odd. Okay. It was just very, very odd. And I just feel like you want us to believe that Tom, who is alleged to have dementia and alleged to have some sort of brain trauma and alleged to have had this, all these things going on, is confronting burglars. I just don't get. Listen, okay, whatever. So Kyle in her confessional is like, this sounds crazy, but does this mean that I don't believe her? No, it means that the story sounds crazy. Kyle, let's stop right here. This is the gaslighting that I feel is coming from like some of the women like Dorit and Kyle when it comes to their defense of Erika Jane. This story makes no sense at all. It makes no sense at all. But what they are doing is trying to show their unwavering allegiance to this woman by saying, I don't care what she says to me, I'm going to believe her. But why? Episodes ago, Dorit said something to the effect that everything she thought she knew about Erika Jane's life was the diametric opposite of what has been presented to her presently. So why would you continuously believe these cockamamie alleged stories when you also don't feel like you've been given the exact truth? But I ain't calling her a liar, okay? Best believe I ain't calling her a liar. Garcelle has a dating coach come over, and it is what it is. They try to present some options to her. And unless I see her go out on a date, I don't believe the storyline is really happening. And I don't mean that in a negative way. But what I will say is that I feel like it's probably they are really presenting her with these people, but I need to see her on the actual date. That's when I feel like it'll get good. But that's just me. Crystal is remodeling her basement. She's going to spend about $500,000 on it, mostly because Her husband needs a virtual golf simulation type situation going on in the basement. And I'm not mad at it. Listen, this is the type of rich and fabulous that I'm here for. But Crystal is very pretty much kind of reasonable and chill. And so I mean, outside of the spending, but if you got it, you got it. I'm not mad at it. And they talk about a little bit, her and Kyle talk a little bit about Garcelle and how Garcelle is feeling like she is an outcast in the group. Crystal herself does not understand how Garcelle feels like that, but she does recognize that Garcelle seems a bit more guarded, and maybe it's because of things that have happened in past friendships and in some of her friendships with some of the ladies. So she may be guarded as she comes into this season. And I think that that's an accurate estimation of where Garcelle is with the group at this point. But again, Garcelle will probably have to choose whether or not to be the sort of outspoken voice of reason, and asking the hard questions and saying the hard things and calling people out, or she will have to learn to acquiesce to the group and walk and run with the sort of constructed reality that the ladies would seem to prefer to showcase on television. Bottom line. So she's going to have to choose one or the other. And if she chooses the other, she has to recognize that she's going to be an outcast. Easy breezy. But that's fine for me, because I would just simply show up to every scene and do my job and go home. So it's a couples night for PK and Dorit, and they go over to Kyle's house to have dinner with Kyle and Mauricio. Now they get into the whole. First of all, Kyle tells Dorit the stories that Erika told her about the attempted burglary or whatever, and then the son and the alleged accident. I'm gonna say alleged because you got to watch next week's episode, in which case you'll understand why some of this seems to be alleged, possibly. Anyway, then after she relays it to Dorit, they talk about it at the dinner table with the husbands. And again, PK, being the voice of reason in this situation, basically begins to break down Erika's story. And he says this: how did Erika know that Tom had his house broken into? I thought that we were told that they weren't speaking. And then we also learned from, the conversation that Erika had with Crystal, whether it was in a hot mic moment or not, that Tom was still calling her. Okay. What's the deal? And PK then says, well, what are the odds that Tom and his stepson will both flip their cars? So they just begin to question the information that Erika is giving to the ladies. And they believe that there are some red flags and some lies mixed in there. And PK then ultimately says that he believes that, Erika was in a controlling marriage, and to some extent, she may still be being controlled by him. And that could be true as well. There's also this notion that Erika said that when she told the group she chose not to have the doctor operate on Tom's brain after he rolled his car. Why would you not have them operate on his brain if the doctors say that you should operate on the brain? And I understand getting your, second opinions and such, but it just seems a little odd to me. Okay. And they were just poking holes in that story and basically just kind of laughing about the absurdity of it all. And it was interesting to me that the husbands were kind of like pointing out the holes in the story that the women were refusing to see. Kyle and Dorit, to me, they seem to want to be so far up Erika's butt that they refuse to see the fact that her stories have just inconsistencies in the retelling of them. Now, I don't know what she's telling. Now, according to Lisa Rinna on Watch What Happens Live, the way she is relaying the stories to her, they seem more realistic. But the way that she's relaying these stories on TV, baby, they seem crazy. Okay. Like, why would you believe that? And I can't sit here and act like, once upon a time, not long ago, I think I would have let a friend of mine sort of tell me some type of cockamamie story. And I would have just been like, okay, clearly you just want to live the life that you think that you're living in your head and not the one that I believe is actually happening in reality. Now in my real life, I would be like, now let's break this thing. Now what's going on? Because that don't make no sense to me. And I think it's nothing wrong with saying that when something don't make sense. You cannot make something make sense that don't make sense. Please realize that. Now, moving right on along. We get the launch party for Nectaria, or whatever it is, times Dorit, okay? And the wedding dresses, they do look nice. They have a very gorgeous setup. And everybody, honestly, what I love about the Beverly Hills ladies is that everybody looks good when they come into the scene. They all look good, okay? And so I just feel like I like the style and the effort that they put into each and every event. And they have the perfect formula for a housewives show. They have, a bunch of scenes, either solo scenes at the beginning of the episode mixed with maybe like one or two group scenes. And then at the end, we get the meat and potatoes of the episode with the women all interacting in some sort of group setting. And that is the masterpiece and the formula for a great housewives show. Okay. Sutton arrives with her boyfriend because listen, it was interesting to me that when Sutton does arrive, you can kind of see Erika rolling her eyes. But given their last interaction, Erika is still polite to her and tells her to come on over and stand beside her when they get to the, their little, when they're drinking or whatever. And I thought that either this could be one, that Beverly Hills fakeness, I smile in your face, or it could be two, emotional maturity, wherein you say to yourself, listen, I've got to interact with this person. I may not like her, but for the sake of the group, then I will be polite and cordial, but I'm not trying to have no real conversations with this girl. I think it could be that because in the next episode, you will see Erika saying, well, why are you talking to me? To Sutton. So I don't know. I'm assuming it's just polite etiquette. I'm going to be nice to you because we're in a social setting and I don't want to make this awkward for the rest of the group. I can dig that. But again, it's still kind of like, we'll see where this goes. Harry Hamlin shows up at some point. They show off the dresses. Everyone loves the dresses. The men break off from the women. And then Lisa Rinna and Erika Jayne smartly just sit at the table because they're like, I feel like they knew something about to go down. I feel like they get a phone call they all call each other beforehand. This is what I think. Oh, this is what I feel like. I feel like her, Kyle, Lisa Rinna, Kyle, Dorit, and Erika Jayne all usually call each other. And I think that they say, this is what we're going to do. And this is what we're going to bring up tonight. And that's going to be the scene. And I think that Lisa Rinna and Erika purposely set that one out, knowing that, Erika's been through enough and Lisa wanted to be there for her. And tonight was Garcelle's night to be chopped and filleted on the menu. Now, apparently, Kyle brings up the fact that Garcelle had done an interview with Mario Lopez where he asked about her experience on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills this season. And she said that they were coming for her, but she was ready for them. Now, this made the major headlines. And so now Kyle wants to talk about it because it had everybody up in arms, apparently, allegedly, probably the main core group, right? And so then Dorit has another opportunity to start in on Garcelle and basically say, well, listen, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you feel like that? Garcelle's like, well, I'm entitled to my own opinion. And it feels like my opinion only works if it goes along with your opinion. And, Dorit's like, well, you know what? I speak 4 languages. And Garcelle's like, good for you. And that doesn't make sense in any of them. And you just know that was going to be Dorit's moment. That was the moment that she had been waiting for. She was ready for that. She had rehearsed that in her mirror with her 2 snaps and whatnot. And her girlfriends and the makeup artists and everybody else was probably like, yeah, girl, that's the one. That's the line right there. That's what you need to say to her. That's going to put her in her place. You go, girl. That's going to be a meme. It didn't give what she thought it was going to give because it felt rehearsed. Okay. It didn't feel like a good read comes off the cuff. You know what I'm saying? It feels natural. It feels normal. It just happens, And that line didn't just happen. It didn't. Honestly. And so, you know, the thing about Garcelle in this moment is that she wishes that Lisa Rinna, who claims to want to rebuild her friendship with her, she wishes that Lisa Rinna had her back. And Lisa Rinna in her confessional is like, girl, you can take Dorit. You don't need my back. And so it was kind of like, yeah, and as Garcelle tells the girls, no one had her back when Dorit came at her earlier about being a bully. And I feel like Lisa Rinna does too. You have got to walk into these situations, particularly if you are going to be the voice of reason and call people out the way that Garcelle has been doing. I think you have to be strong enough to stand on your own, and you have to be able to take the entire table full of those women. And I think that Garcelle is strong enough and capable enough to do that. I feel like she's just pulling her punches, probably because she does not want to come off as the angry woman in the group, right? But sometimes, let me tell y'all something, sometimes you have got to get with people to get them together. And I think it is time that Garcelle gets with them to get them together, because guess what? You know, listen, as a woman, specifically a Black woman, I want to say this. I don't ever want a Black woman to feel like they can't show the full spectrum of their anger because they may fear that you may be perceived as the angry Black woman. Because guess what? You have a right to be angry when you want to be angry and when something makes you angry. And you better express that anger, because that is a natural human emotion. And don't let anybody make you feel less than because you express your anger, because guess what? You got something to be angry about. And so I feel like Garcelle doesn't need to continue to pull any punches with these women, because they are not pulling any punches with her. So I feel like she needs to get on up, pull up them bootstraps and get with them. You know, that's bottom line. Because I honestly think that at the end of the day, what they were telling her was, listen, if you want to tell Dorit to shut up, tell her to shut up. And from now on, Garcelle, what I want you to do is when the girl starts yip yapping at the mouth and can't shut up, tell her to shut up. She ain't gonna like it, but she asked for it. Okay. And I hope I articulated that as correctly as I was hoping that I would. I just want to do away with this notion that we as Black people can't be angry and we can't feel these things because of how society will interpret what we're feeling. No, we have a lot to be angry about. And sometimes, especially when a situation calls for it, we deserve to feel the full range of our emotions and expressions, regardless of the perceived impact that it will have on us, right? Because everybody else gets to be angry. So we should feel the same way. Okay. That goes for any culture, any nationality. That's a human emotion, you know? And so I wanted to really express that in this review, because it just makes me angry, because I do feel like Garcelle is reserving her energy for something. Like she's not giving the girls what they need to have, you know? And sometimes you gotta get with a person. Don't mean you ain't gotta flip no table, but you can very well, and I know Garcelle's capable of doing that. So I want to see more of that from her as the episodes move on. And yeah, that's what I want. So that was my review for the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I just wanted to provide you guys with that because I told you I would try to do so. And let me know what you think down in the comment section down below. It's a little bit, I'm doing this review a little bit late, but I figured better late than never. With that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.